Is it, if possible, if could one of you please check and put it in the chat message?
So chat, in which our chat or which a Facebook chat,
Our chat, yes, to be, I guess. I'll have to know, but I'll have a check.
Okay. So I'm not logged in any one of those, to be honest.
Okay, we are on. Namaste, viewers. Thank you for joining today's live Q&A session on Hinduism. Namaste, viewers. Thank you for joining today's live Q&A session on Hinduism. Sorry, we got a bit of a technical things that were going on there, so just checking we were live. So yes, welcome to today's live Q&A session. As normal, we will play a short video of Jai Bhai and then discuss around the topic of animals and Hinduism. So I'll play the video now and then we'll discuss the topic around it. If you bear with me, I'll share my screen.
Brilliant. So the next question is, in Hinduism.
Sorry, I'm not sure if I shared with audio or not, so I'll redo it just to be sure. Share sound. Okay, let me share again.
We say, for example, that there are many thousands of types of different creations or creatures, and human beings are at the very top of that. Yet we worship cows, dogs, and there's one more animal. Yeah. But is it not true that the thing that you worship is higher, given a higher place than yourself? Yet you say that you are at the highest level.
You see, it's not necessary that if you are at a higher level, that means you're going to run down the lower rungs of evolution. We don't do that. That is our magnanimous nature. Mm-hmm. That is why Hinduism, the Vedic scriptures are very beautiful. They say, revere all living things, including plants. And the world itself, the physical world, the material world, is a revere everything. Everything is expression of the spirit. So revere everything. There are some, like the stones, are at the lower rungs. Then you kind of little bacteria, insect. By the way, bacteria, the viruses are really worrying stuff at the moment. But then you have those. But they said, look, I'm saying revere. That doesn't mean you go and say, hello, I embrace you. Then all of us will. But we recognize, we keep a little distance. The tiger, there is a goat in the tiger, but you don't go and embrace it. In the same way, we revere all the living, kind of creatures, including the plant life. There's a lot of the stuff that we have, the Vedic kind of verses talk about giving reverence, importance to the whole of the living kingdom, and including the non-living kingdom too. But this is at the same time, doesn't mean that because we are higher, we can't respect, we can't revere, we can't give it kind of dignity. That's what we are doing. It shows a magnanimous, species, saying that even though I'm at the upper rung, these animals are not here for me to crunch and munch on. That's what it means. They are here and they must be given dignity as well. They must be revered for being a living thing.
So why does the cow and the dog get such preferential treatment?
I think in India, the dog is much more important for the Englishman. For India, I think the cow is much more important. The dogs are fine, we don't mind them. Even rats, we don't mind. Snakes, we don't mind. But the cow has been given very special status, and I've repeated this many a times, but I still want to repeat is this. Look, my friends, not me getting worked up about the holy cow. Just do a little research on the history of humanity. Humanity came out of Africa, Homo sapiens, thinking human beings, the only way they could survive is to get a spear and kill other animals and eat them. Because fruits and whatever vegetation was very limited, they would die. So they needed to kill other living things, animals and fish to survive. That's how we were surviving for about 70,000 years. Hunter-gatherers is the term we use throughout the world. This is how humanity was kind of progressing. And then they could not settle down, because when the supply of meat finishes in one place, they go further up and say, now which of the animal can we kill and survive? They went moving away from here, and they're called hunter-gatherers, running around. If you cannot settle down, how can you be civilized? You don't know where you can't hang on to your family even. You got children and they are kind of struggling to survive, and you rush around and they're coming after you with you. So it was a very difficult task. It is now well, this is the history of humanity, not me making it up. About 10,000 years ago, one animal that appeared to be very supportive of humanity was the gentle cow. Because it doesn't eat human beings, it doesn't kind of bite human beings, chase after human beings like other animals. It is a very domestic, very calm and gentle animal. And the wonderful thing is this animal produces more milk than it requires. In fact, the initial reason why the cow was given great reverence in the stories of Krishna, etc., butter and milk was kind of important feature. That's why we are vegetarians, we eat butter and milk and all that. It's to do with this cow. There was a symbiosis between the cow and humanity. Because the cows are producing more milk than what the little calves required, the extra milk was used by human beings to survive while their crops were growing in the farms. Otherwise, they can't survive. They have to wait for the crops to grow before they can eat. So for them to continue to survive, this extra milk this gentle animal was providing gave them that support. And again, be careful, there was symbiosis. We were looking after the cow, making sure in the winter it's got grass to eat. And in return, the cow was giving us this extra, remember the word is extra milk. We are not sucking out the life out of the cow as we are doing at the moment. So the extra milk we were using to survive and wait for our crops to grow. The whole of humanity, which was running around, rushing around, kicks with spears, slowed down, began to start farming. And the farming started about 10,000 years. Check it out. 10,000 years ago with the compliments of the gentle animal called the cow. And the relationship was symbiosis. We looked after the cow, it's a very gentle animal to get killed. So we looked after it, and in return, they were giving us the extra milk that we required. It was symbiotic. That is why in the time of Krishna, cow was, not in time, in the Vedic period, the cow was the main asset of anybody. Number of cows he possessed was his asset. So that's how the
wealth of a
wealth was
person.
just the cows, number of cows. And even in the Vedic period when the rishis were debating, if they win, they get 1,000 cows in present. So this is how the money was cow. This was the most important sustaining animal for human beings to come across. Now, so far so good. So that is why since ancient I will say this animal is very special. And there are not only just the milk, all the other parts of the cow are very useful for humanity. As you know, even they use it for fire, like firewood, etc. You don't need to burn the forest for that. So all these things were very positive for humanity. So the cow became a part and parcel of the Hindu culture, the Hindu society. That is why when the word Gotra, which you hear with this stage of background, says which particular cow shed do you come from?
Yes.
That's called Gotra. You didn't realize that. So this idea of cow
Look, that's
is
a very interesting thing.
Yeah, but-
I've heard the word Gotra. I know what it means.
This is what it means.
I didn't know the
It comes
actual
from the
meaning.
same cow shed.
Wow, interesting.
This is how, because
This is,
ancient society was kind of Gotras. They'll say, not ask your son, they'll say, what's your Gotra? And the Gotra is which cow shed do you come from? Those cows maintain your family. That's what it means.
Fantastic.
This is why the cow became very special. And people think it's because of creation. No. It's because we recognize as human beings, this cow has given us the ability to settle down, become civilized, learn languages, become intelligent, have a solid place for our children to grow up. So all these things like languages, thinking, science, everything we developed because of the gentle animal. So today I'm saying, please, if any animal deserves respect, it's not the dog, surprisingly, it's the cow. In England, it's the dog. I must pass this comment again, because these secularists have been after us. In India, they're saying, this butcher was taking cow for being butchered, and the Hindus got worked up and beat up the man. Horrible Hindus. I say, look, let me be very clear. We live in a secular nation called United Kingdom. Try and take a dog to the abattoir to be killed and eaten. Try in England today. Very civilized. Dog is just a dog. Come on, say meat, and we eat meat, so why not eat meat? Try and do it in England today. Forget about one person running with a lathi and trying to beat you up. The whole nation will jump on you. See, because here the reverence that we have for cow has been kind of reserved for the dog. So it's their nature, it's their particular system. So be it. So when they shout and say, how dare you, you Hindutva, and try and do that with a dog here, and you see what happens.
I remember a couple of years ago, there was this woman who was caught on CCTV or something, and she was smacking a cat and put it in the bin.
Oh, trouble.
And how much,
I know.
what an uproar it caused.
With that video went viral,
Yes.
that poor woman had no end of trouble, because they'll catch her, find her, and really kind
She
of.
was fined.
So there you go, viewers. Very interesting topic of human-animal relationship, especially from Hindu point of view, Hindu angle we are looking at. And even in, our temples, we see in the Shiva temple, you would see a tortoise, you would see a bull and Nandi the bull, and various other animals associated with different deities. So what is the reason behind all these animals being associated with various deities, and why is animals considered so special in Hinduism, Vijay bhai?
Okay, I think this is actually a very big central part of Hinduism. Don't forget that in Hinduism, all life, living things have Atman, not just humans. But unfortunately, because we live in a kind of a very Judeo-Christian environment, and I've noticed that also in India, because of 1,000 years rule by, the Judeo-Christian thought, Abrahamic thought, they don't see animals as having living Atman. They're like God's bounty to be used. Okay, they might say that we should look after it because it's God's creation, but nothing more than that. That's where they stop, right? But for the Indic faiths, it's much more than that. They are actually divine things. And even now, if you look at that, the way we think has changed so much. In a way, it's sad because I've actually talked to, Adivasis in India, people who live, and the way they revere trees, revere animals is very different because their life is, their whole ethos is based on not having dominion over nature, is that you're part and parcel of nature. You are one with nature. And that's very important. Remember that you're not higher or lower. As Jay mentioned, humans may be at the top of the evolutionary chain, but we come from the same seed. Let's face it, right? Ultimately, we come from the same little whatever, archaic bacteria. So in effect, we're all tied together, linked together. To say that animals or plants don't have a living soul or living, Atman, that just doesn't make sense. Then we should have either. We come from the same evolutionary soul, right? Seed. So it doesn't make sense. So just that enough should make people think that if they all have Atman, we should show respect and reverence to them. Simple as that. I mean, no doubt in India, the cow is much more revered because obviously it is part and parcel of Indian civilization. And I've mentioned, I think, in the videos before, and Sita has mentioned as well, the Indus Valley civilization is actually built on the cow and the bull. That's why the bull, we say Dharma Raj. Because of the bull, we actually give the idea of Dharma. We can practice Dharma because of the bull, because we're not hunter-gatherers anymore, as Jay mentioned, hunting and gathering and surviving. The cow and the bull, which actually help farming. So one person could farm for 20 people, 30 people. So they could be free to become priests, sculptors, artisans, builders. And the cow again is very, you'll be surprised actually. The little nutrition at the times when the food is scarce, even the smallest amount of nutrition you get from anything else is like life-saving. And the cow in that sense is very, very special. I remember when I was young in India again, the cow always produces like say 2 liters or 1 liter extra of milk. Even at 1 liter, they make butter out of milk, they make buttermilk, and that's so nourishing. So even that sustenance it gives you in hard times, it's very, very, endearing for us. So would you kill a kind of animal? No, you show reverence to, respect to it. Yeah. And similarly, see, even for the animal world, we have the Tulsi plant as a kind of a symbol for all the plants, So reverence shown through entire animal plant kingdom to kind of all the flora through the Tulsi plant. Same with the fauna through the cow, we should reverence the entire, fauna, not just the cow. But we have to keep that in mind that they are divine things. And unfortunately, I've noticed that, I'm not saying anyway, even myself, because we've grown up so much in a Judeo-Christian kind of, cocoon, we forget that. And to be a proper, dharmic person, we have to we kind of rejig our mind and see things differently. And I mean, to be honest, a lot of the problems we have in the world today, the excess consumption of, resources, using plants, growing them, at like, growing them extensively, the damage in the soil. Just where there was an article, you'd be surprised, on every year, 64 million chickens are actually thrown away because they mature too quickly and they die because of, all kinds of problems in the, in the body, because they have what you call this kind of a bad heart or damaged livers, but they're growing them so fast to genetic within, like, I don't know, 32 days ready for, for slaughter and for food. So this is the world we live in. Why? Because there's no reverence shown anymore. They're just seen as consumption. And all this can change if the key idea that Hinduism provides, the wonderful idea that they are divine beings. You are not there to or dominion over them. You are part and parcel of them. These are the key ideas you need to bring forth. And I think that will really help to show reverence for animals and live in a better world, in my view. Sorry for going on for quite a while, but it's a very emotional topic for me as well. Sita.
I think you've covered it absolutely amazingly. I mean, I think it's really important, as Vijay said, to make sure that we don't sort of become too sort of proud about our position as humanity. We are deeply connected with the ecology of the world around us. We always see ourselves as being separate to it, but having this especially spiritual understanding that everything is deeply connected at a non-material level helps us to feel greater connection to the rest of the living kingdom. And that's why in all of these images of gods and goddesses within Hinduism, there's a lot of animal features, in animals sort of incorporated into the images of the gods and goddesses, not because we are worshipping animals and, we're not that kind of a religion. We're just saying that we are elevating the status of the animal kingdom to the level of the divine, because essentially everything is divine, not just humanity, the whole living kingdom is divine. So it's incredibly important to remain humble about that, because without the sort of flora and fauna, as Vijay was saying, we wouldn't be where we are right now. If we are using the resources around us to make ourselves evolve, to make ourselves have nice homes and have nice food and all of these things, we have to remember it's thanks to, even like little insects, like the little bees. Where would we be without the bees? Honestly, we really underestimate the value of something so small. They go around pollinating all the food that we eat. And it's very, very easy to forget, that the humble, smallest animals and insects are actually really contributing to our own well-being. So it's our duty and our responsibility to also care for them as well, rather than seeing the whole world as there for us to crunch and munch on, as Dad would always say. It's not like that at all. We are deeply connected at a non-material level, not just at the physical level.
That's wonderfully covered, Sitaben, Vijay Bhai. As Sitaben said, that we are all deeply connected. And what we see in modern life is a change of scenario with industrialization. The whole connect between the animal and human kingdom, the symbiosis is gone, and we become like urban civil generation of people, where that connection with the animal is lost, and the only connection we tend to have is with some pets if we have them. So how do we progress from in modern life? Should we have some sort of connection with animals, or are we okay just living as with hardly any connection? And then you see animals like chicken and animal produced for this meat industry in industrialized way. How should humanity progress it?
So every individual is different. Everyone's lifestyle is different. But I think whatever you do decide to do, whether you decide to have pets or not, or whatever kind of connection you wish to have with the animal kingdom, we should remember that every sort of choice that we make should be having the animal kingdom and the rest of the living kingdom in mind. So wherever we can source ethically produced products. We can try and become vegetarian or vegan. all of these decisions can help to impact, the rest of the living kingdom. We don't just sort of, live, just whatever we want to do, we just do it. It's not like that. We have to have a great deal of consideration for everything around us. And when we see ourselves as being so deeply connected to everything around us, it makes us feel much more responsible, because when we are living in a sort of very attitude of materialistic approach to life, we are sort of shutting ourselves out from everything else. We just think about me, what's good for me, what can I achieve for myself. Whereas if we sort of recognize that deeper connectivity that we have with everything around us, it makes us, feel more ethically inclined. Our behavior would beautifully and naturally follow, environmental ethics, the need to care for the whole rest of the living kingdom, which is around us, whether we see it or not. And for some people, having a pet may be a wonderful way of having that connection with the animal kingdom, because that pet will become part of the family, that dog or cat or whatever animal it is. And you care for it and you look after it. It's like having another child, basically. For some people, that's a way that they can connect with the animal kingdom. Another thing which is really important, especially if you have small children, make sure you keep taking them to places like the farms and the zoos, and make sure they feel connected with the whole rest of the living kingdom, because it is very easy for us to slip into, we're just living our human life and it's just in this little isolated corner, and the animal kingdom is in that little isolated corner, whereas the world just doesn't operate like that. So it's really important to make sure we keep reminding ourselves of our connection with the rest of the living kingdom, and especially through the kinds of choices that we make. It doesn't even need to relate to food. It can relate to, the kinds of materials or clothing that you choose, whether you choose leather or not, or whatever. There's so many vegan products which you can also use on a day-to-day basis. So it's really important to have that consideration. We shouldn't just think about our rights as humanity, that this is our right, this is our right. We also have to think about our responsibility as well. Often people forget that, it's not just about my rights and what I can take, it's about what can I give back, and that's your responsibility, and that's an incredibly important aspect of spiritual living. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I think Sita has beautifully covered so many ways we can actually try and connect with nature, animals, plants. I mean, this is the main thing, isn't it? Because all the food we see in the restaurants, in the supermarket, all packed up so nicely. It nowhere near looks like the product that is actually out there on the farms, or the animal is totally changed. So I think the thing is, we need to try and change, I think, our lifestyles, including myself, obviously, to try and how do we connect with nature? Take walks, look at trees, try and understand the beauty of the trees. That link we have, that curiosity we have, that curiosity of looking at things and awe and wonder, that kind of disappears. When you're a child, as Sita mentioned, when I take my children to the zoos, they go, oh, wow, look at this, beautiful, mane hair on the sheep, or look at this camel, and look at this. There's so much into it. They feel really amazed to see that. And after a while, it's just just food. I think we are too much interested in cars and, other things which are not really connecting us with our true self. So I think we need to start admiring natural things. Birds, there's so many lifestyles, so many different kinds of birds. Try and look at those, feel the connection. Once you feel that, I think it also makes you feel more spiritual. So I think by and large, we live in a society where you're so disjointed. I'll give you a simple example. There's a tree just outside my driveway. And it took me many months to notice actually there's a tree. There's a new tree, which has been there for 2 years. When somebody asked me, do you have trees on your road? I said, I don't even remember, because I never bothered to look at that tree. But now I have, it's a cherry tree. But now I look at the tree, and now I know the tree much better. But it just shows how much disjoint we have in our lives, the way we lead our lives. And that disjoint has to go and be built again. And one way to do this, of course, is to go to your own nature and work with it and kind of connect with it. I think that'll be much more happy. So many problems of stress, all kinds of problems will be kind of reduced just by going in nature and connecting with your true, connection that you have with nature. That's all I can add to it, Manish.
Wonderful answers there, Sita and Vijay Bhai. So in modern life, we are more materialistic, many of us. we tend to, want to possess more things, and this has led to people possessing animals, birds, rare exotic animals as well. What is your point of view on that? Should we be doing that? Is that a connection with the animals? Vijay bhai?
Interesting question. It's quite interesting because personally, I don't have any animals. I think they should be free in whatever. But I can't say that because even animals have evolved now to be in symbiosis with humans. Like if you look at the Eskimos, they keep their dogs, which are for pulling the, the sledges, and also India, the cow, for example. So in many ways, that's why we revere them, because they've actually helped humans civilize. And in the Western world, the dogs are very, actually even the horse was very, I know many kind of people in Britain will find very difficult to eat horse meat. They might say, okay, make it into, fertilizer or feed it to dog, but they will not eat it because it's such a deep connection. So I would suggest that try not keep exotic pets which have not evolved to be in symbiosis with us. And there's no benefit, actually it's one-way benefit. We are enjoying, the bird you keep in a cage. We're enjoying its, its beauty, its making of mimicking sounds, but they get nothing in return from us. So it should be a symbiotic relationship. Like if you keep a dog, it looks after you. If you look after a dog, and dogs are very loyal. They've evolved to be with humans. I think over thousands of years, that's how they've evolved. So there's important to keep the distinction here, because animals live on us, we live on animals. That connection is there for many kinds of animals. For some, it's not there. And if there's no connection there, then I think we should try and not have them with us. We should really free them. There's nothing that they get from us. There's no symbiotic relationship. That's the key thing here we have to keep in mind. Sita?
Yeah, I mean, as Vijay Bhai touched on, I think it's a really important point, is that actually having that connection with an animal or with nature, it's really good for our own sort of mental health, and especially for people who are living on their own. Maybe having a pet can be a real lifeline for them. It can be, somebody that they can really sort of care for, look after, if it's a dog or a cat, and they get that love and affection back, which is just wonderful. It's just having any kind of connection with any living thing is really sort of beautiful, because you're connecting with, with the spirit, essentially, whether it be through human form or through animal form. So for some people especially, it would be very beneficial to have a pet and build a really close relationship with that pet. But having said that, in terms of exotic animals, as Vijay Bhai said, I completely agree. They're not sort of built to be, in a domestic environment. So, it's very sort of confining and limiting for them. So perhaps for them, they should be out in the wild. They should be, in their natural habitat. That's probably better for them. But, humanity has a habit of, misusing the living kingdom, the living environment around us. And, we have to try and make ethical decisions to try and avoid those kinds of things from happening. So, where people try and profit from exotic animals in confinement and all of that, we should maybe try and avoid those kinds of endeavors to help prevent that kind of thing happening. It's a very, very small, limited thing that you can do. But if everyone sort of thinks in that kind of way, hopefully we can try and start becoming more ethical in the way that we live and having that deeper symbiosis with the rest of the living kingdom.
That's wonderful to hear how we can improve the situation. So one question is that there is, I think, a temple in India where there are many rats, and I think they are kind of worshipped, or it's like a temple known with many rats in it. I think so. You may have seen videos of that. And then some people consider snake as a kind of divine as well. So how do you, what do you think about this, Sita? Is this good, or are some, from other religious point of view, some Abrahamic people say, what are these people doing? They have no sense. What are they doing? What's your thought on this, Sita?
Yeah, I mean, each to their own, I guess, as long as you're not hurting the animals, as long as, they're not being sort of going through any kind of suffering, well, each to their own. Because, as Hinduism, we are a democracy, and a spiritual democracy, and we encourage people to choose their own journey, whichever way suits them the most. And for some, it may involve reverence to a particular animal from the animal kingdom. And who is there to stop us, unless it's they're doing any kind of harm to the animal, which I don't think they are. So each to their own. For some people, that's their way. And, Hinduism is very open. It never says, no, you can't do that. So each to their own, I guess. I don't know have much more to say on that, Vijay.
No, I mean, I agree, Sita. I think that's the beauty about, you see, the Indic traditions, that interacting with animals, showing reverence. I mean, I've seen that there's a rat temple, which I've seen videos, rats running everywhere. If you're not brought up in that environment, you'll really scare the hell out of you, rats running everywhere. But that's the thing, giving reverence. I mean, of course, there are other negative aspects of that. Rats carry a lot of disease as well. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But I mean, the other animals, like, the snake, for example, you mentioned cobra. There are many villages in India where cobras roam freely in the village. There's not a problem at all. And they give them milk, they show reverence. And contrary to popular belief, none of the children are actually stung by this cobra. They only use the venom, right, for them to feed. They only give a threat. If it's not a threat, they let it walk freely. Actually, sometimes really scary. You see the cobra going on somebody's leg and just passing through with no problem. And they're brought up like that, the whole village. And it's a reference for the snake. So in a way, I think, as Sita said, Hinduism is very open in that tradition. You can be worshipping the snake in your village. That's okay. Rats, it's okay. They're all okay. They're all different ways to show respect for nature and fauna, which is a very good thing, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. I've got another interesting question. What about mosquitoes and bed bugs and stuff like that? What do we do with them, Vijay bhai?
Okay, interesting question. That's a dilemma, because we know mosquitoes carry a lot of disease, right? But again, I think an interesting story I read recently, just about a couple of weeks back. If you know this frog legs, they're very big delicacy in Europe, right? And every year about 400 million frogs are killed actually in Indonesia, Malaysia for export. Not the main, but only the legs are eaten. And because of that, the mosquitoes have increased now. So there's a very big fine balance, If you allow nature to balance itself out, then the mosquito problem will actually go down, ironically. But you see, even they have a place, even mosquitoes have a place actually in the, in the ecosystem, yeah. So we have to be very careful. They actually feed a lot of other animals, and they're feeding other animals, and so on and so forth. But yes, if it causes a disease, you have to try and fix it. You don't say, okay, mosquitoes come and drink blood on me because I really want to feed you, because I want your eggs in the female mosquito to grow. You don't do that, right? You actually protect yourself, obviously. But having said that, I mean, the latest issues I've seen is to try and make the mosquitoes have now been in such a way altered, which I don't know if it's a good thing or not, that the main virus, I think it's Plasmodium falciparum, which actually causes this malaria disease. They've managed to kind of make it inert or destroy it within the mosquito, so they won't kill the mosquito anymore. Of course, you can say then we're also killing bacteria, whatever. That's another story altogether. But by and large, everything is so interconnected. But all I would say that you look after yourself. You don't let mosquitoes bite you because it's not good for health. You don't let rats around in your house to eat your food because it's not good for health. So of course, we show reverence. Also, we have to be practical as well, yes, because they're good. They all go to the place in society, but we have got our place as well, and we have to protect that too. So we have to be careful. Sita?
No, I think it's a very, life is complicated, and having your own life involves, the whole process of having your life involves stepping on other life. There's no other way around it, however hard we try, because however vegan or whatever you try to be, you are still sort of stepping on other life by existing. The mere fact that you breathe, you're killing hundreds and thousands of small organisms, which you have no idea are even around you. So this is the sort of the way the cookie crumbles, unfortunately, that having a life involves stepping on other life. And for some cases, if there's an infection, you've got a chest infection or whatever, or you've got mosquitoes or whatever it is, we have to do our bit to ensure our own survival. So if it involves, having insect repellent or spray or whatever it is, we have to do it, because we have to remember that we are essentially spirit as well, and we have to look after ourselves as well. So it's one of those very difficult sort of decisions. Yes, everything is divine, everything is wonderful, but we have to protect ourselves. It doesn't mean we let bacteria infect us and we don't take any antibiotics. Just let them live, it's fine. You're going to die in the process, so you have to look after yourself. It's a very sort of delicate balance. And just touching on what Vijay was saying, like even the whole, having a human life and having all of our needs and necessities filled, it kind of disrupts the ecology of the world, essentially, because we kind of breed more animals that we want to consume, like we have more chickens and hens and stuff than other sort of the wildlife and all of that. And similarly, even with the flora, we kind of try and grow those kinds of plants and trees which are beneficial to humanity, and it can again disrupt the ecology. And even if you look back hundreds and thousands of years, all these explorers who went traveling around the world, they brought insects and animals from this part of the world to that part of the world, disrupting the ecology in so many different places. So, humanity does disrupt the ecology, and even our own existence disrupts the ecology. But we just have to do the best we can with, whatever limited resources we can to try and make sure we don't forget. It's very easy to forget, but make sure we don't forget that connection that we have with everything around us. And we can't be sort of silly and say everything has to live and survive, because bacteria and stuff which are inside us, they can't live, unfortunately. We have to say bye-bye to them.
Wonderful answer there, Sitaben and Vijay. We just take some comments from viewers, some very interesting comments coming through. Rahul saying in US there is no nature. I've seen everything is urbanized. And I see the same in India, although there are many villages and stuff. The urbanization is happening very fast. So you see some farms being, turned into housing societies, and big urbanization, cities expanding rapidly, and this disconnect happening everywhere. City life and urbanization and village life, where I think the whole this capitalist society is based on this capital system where the urban cities are the center of, and that's where the jobs are. That's where this whole system works in that way, that people want to move into the cities and have this urban lifestyle, which seems to very comfortable, very good. But it is we are losing this symbiosis with animal kingdom. What is your point of view on this, Vijay?
Yeah, it's a very, very important question. I mean, again, a while back, I was discussing with Jayba actually something interesting. And I asked him, why would you like India to become a dharmic country? Why would you, because he was saying that we should make India as a Hindu kind of dharmic, not a secular state, but dharmic state. And this is one of the reasons he gave me, that the fact that we do so much, capitalism, crunching, my materialistic, I want this, I want that, I must make more money, all that. That is very, very not actually dharmic idea at all. But because again, we have been ruled with these ideas, we have picked the same as the West does. Go make more material, get more cars, more this. And the idea is the more burden you have, the more stress you have. As simple as that, right? So the idea is this, that are we living, again, the same question comes, do you want to be symbiotic with the nature, or do you want to just live on your own, make money, lots of money, and live with this artificial idea that I'm well off? It's very artificial. What do you mean well off? That's the key question. It's because you got a money, you got a car, is well off, or somebody who actually takes walks in nature and little less money and enjoying nature and living, who is well off? You really can't judge, can you? But I think this is a big issue. I think we are all driven by this. In many ways, it's a very communal frenzy. Oh, he's working in the city, he's making so much money. I have to work in the city. I have to go live in the city. It's much more better life because I can go evening, I can do partying or whatever. There's a whole this communal thought at play here. Everybody thinking the same. He does it, I should do it. I think somebody needs to break that mold and say that actually it's okay to have a very diverse variety of views. We all think similarly, and that's not a good idea. Again, it's just a thing in the dharmic traditions. We accept there's so many different variety of views and we respect them. But we need to come back to that idea again that actually if somebody wants to work in the farm, Somebody wants to walk trees, have less money. Somebody live in a smaller house. It's okay. It should be given equal dignity. If somebody wants to do it, it's okay. That variety we need, that has to come back. And I think slowly people realize actually there are other ways of living, because people don't even know the other ways of living. They think the only way to live is live in the urban center, work in a post office, and that's something we need to break that wall. It's a very complex kind of a situation here. But let's see how things evolve in the future. Sita?
Yeah, so I mean, I think maybe the governments can take some kind of initiatives. I think in the UK they are, where they deliberately try and create green spaces in these very urban areas. They make small parks and greenery, which is so important. To just have that break, even if you're sort of having a lunch break and you walk through a park, you just feel so relieved. The stress just comes off you, just having that sort of connection with nature, even if you're in that kind of urbanized environment, is so incredibly important. And we're very lucky, especially in London. We've got so many green spaces. Even though it's a tremendously urbanized city, we have a lot of beautiful green spaces in London, so we're very lucky to have that. As Vijay was saying, how do you judge well-being or success or happiness and all of that? And it doesn't actually ultimately doesn't matter like how much material you've accumulated. It ultimately depends on how much connection you have with everything and everyone around you. And we shouldn't forget that it's not just humanity that we need to connect with, it's the whole rest of the living kingdom, whether it's walking through parks or going to the farm and feeding some animals or whatever it is. Having that connection can really boost your own sort of well-being. And it's not just something airy-fairy, like people do feel better. It's something that people encourage to support mental health as well, because mental health issues are sort of really destroying humanity at the moment. So it's incredibly important. These simple, free sort of remedies that we have around us, we should make use of them to support our well-being and to feel a greater connection with spirituality all around us.
Oh, wonderful. I think, Sitaben, you propose a very good solution there, to have these green spaces and have, I think the urbanization need to be controlled in a way that we continue to have this relationship with animals, and animals are protected as well. The jungles, the forests are protected, and if urbanizations happen, then make sure there's enough green spaces to have that connection with the nature. It sounds fantastic idea, and I hope some good decision makers watch our things, and hopefully they can take some decisions on that. We take a question from last week, where Donald Trump had asked, as we all human beings are made up of trillions of living cells, does each cell have an individual soul? Sitaben.
So I think we have to be sort of careful in terms of how we look at it, because the individual soul is basically your human frame, basically. And within your human frame, every sort of living organism is there, living cell is there. But it continues to change. You're actually a very dynamic person, because every cell continues to change. I think they say over a year, like your cell structure, everything is completely changed. It's all different. So everything in the world, everything in the living kingdom is dynamic. We see everything as being still and the same and all of that, but it's like a whirlpool. It's just constantly changing. The shape remains the same, but the water and the particles are constantly changing. And seated within that sort of dynamic sort of structure is the spirit, the Atman, which is seated there. And I think it's really important to remember that we are not this, dynamic sort of, whizzing human frame or, human body. We are ultimately the spirit, which is sort of housed inside. And it reminds me of that beautiful example of the chariot, where, there is a rider seated in the chariot of the body. And then you've got the person who's driving the chariot, which is the mind. And, the horses are the senses. So, your mind is controlling how your senses perceive the world. And we keep getting caught up with, thinking that we are the body and we are everything that's going on around us. But essentially, we are that eternal witness, that rider who is sitting inside the chariot, just witnessing everything. So really, we are sort of, that wonderful spirit. And we just need to remember that that's who we truly are. Vijay Bhai?
Sorry. Hold on, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I think the key thing is that it's a very tricky question actually, because I remember my son asking me once when he went to India, these banyan trees, when the roots spread and this roots produce a new tree and then new tree, or like grass, when they all link, how do you judge how many souls are what souls? Not as easy as it seems. But I think by and large, I think Sita kind of maybe it's a question of how you frame something, and that's a living thing. So I think all I can add is that the trillions of living cells on its own are not individual souls, but the body, is, in our case, the frame of the body is actually a living soul. But the billions of bacteria you have in yours, they're all individual souls. So I think it is not as straightforward to categorize because some species, the way they work are different. Actually, plants or fungi or, like mushrooms and algae, how do they work? They all grow, right? And they're all fighting nature. So in a way, they are living things. But I think by and large, all we can say is that any kind of living thing is a soul, but not at the cellular level, but at least at an object level, or more like at a body or a frame level. Yeah, that's all I can add to that.
Wonderful, thank you, Vijay Bhai, for that. Viewers, thank you for joining. It's good to see Charmaine, Rahul, Christian Perillo, regular viewers joining us every week, and it's wonderful to have you guys. This question is from Rahul. He's asked, Jai Bhai mentioned Gotra in the video. So he's asking, what is Gotra? Is it anything to do with nepotism? Vijay Bhai?
I don't know about nepotism, but all I can say, the Gotra thing has by and large been very, very important in the Brahmanic traditions. The Brahmanic schools we had in India in ancient times, who are basically the preserver of the Vedic scriptures and all the scriptures we have today. I know today is not fashionable to talk about Brahmins in a nice manner, which is really sad, because I think because of historical reasons, because of colonial reasons and conquest for thousands of India, we see Brahmins in a very negative light. But in India, they're the biggest struggling. They struggle a lot financially nowadays. They actually on the lowest rung in many ways in the financial. But there's been this term being used to get a negative light on them. But they are the schools which are actually named, as Jai Bhai mentioned, after cow sheds. So the Gotras, I think there are about 64 main Gotras, and that is the tradition or the family name that's preserved. It's one thing to remember as well. Some of them have names like, they call them, Trivedi, Dvivedi. These are the people who master, like Trivedi means the master of 3 Vedas. And there was something passed through generation and generation. So hundreds of generations orally passed these 3 Vedas they mastered, right? And like that, they were passed through. Dvivedi means the master of 2 Vedas, right? And these are the kind of names they had, which are kind of defines a way of a special uniqueness about those Brahmanic schools that they had. In the olden days, all these schools were run by Brahmins with the senior teachers. That's how the Gotra name came in. But I know it's also been passed on to other kind of groups, like in my group as well. My surname is Hirani, and I'm seen to loosely belong to Gotra as well, which is where Hirani's surname comes from. So I think it's mainly a family tradition thing, but it's more important among the Brahmanic schools. I know some people are called Gautam, like that, which means from the special cow family. And then by and large, this is how the Gotra system works. And it's something that it's good to have historical knowledge of that, because it gives you an idea on how scriptures are preserved by different Brahmanic schools. And that's what I can add to that. It's quite a traditional thing anyway, in that sense. Sita?
In a way, it's wonderful because that system keeps us connected to the living kingdom through the cow, and it's beautiful. It shows that beautiful symbiosis, and it's not something that's sort of unique to the Indian subcontinent. Throughout the world, humanity has this habit of sort of putting itself into little groups and clans and tribes, and through those sort of groups, we sort of develop cultures and traditions, and that's what's passed on to the next generation, and it continues to sort of evolve and flow that way. So having these groups, hopefully nothing to do with nepotism, but you never know through time, because you don't know how humanity behaves, you can't predict that. But we have this habit as the human race to sort of want to be part of groups and clans and tribes. That gives us that sense of identity and purpose and belonging. So there's a real sort of social significance to having these sort of groupings. And, in India, it's to do with the cow, but in other places, I know in sort of places it's to do with cow, with the color of the shells that your family is surrounded by. And, there's all sorts of things around the world. It's really fascinating to look at the traditions that are evolved around those kinds of things that you observe around you, things in nature. It might be as color of shells, or it might be the animals that you're linked to. So I think it's actually beautiful, because it's the way that we connect with the living kingdom and the human beings around us as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Sitaben. We take next question. Gagonite has asked, is the Gaudiya Sampradaya authentic? It's one from the last week. Vijay bhai, would you want to answer that?
Yeah. All I can say is the Gaudiya Parampara is from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's the ISKCON tradition they follow as well. So he's one of these Vedanta acharyas who started his own philosophy. I think it's called Achintya Bheda Bhed. Just like Shankara, Ramanuja. So he's one of those 7 great acharyas. So the Gaudiya system is authentic in that sense, if that's what you mean. But the original the Gaudiya kind of tradition is still there in West Bengal. Actually, it's still there. I know that also Ramakrishna Paramahansa had a lot of interaction with the people from the Gaudiya Parampara system. But the new system, the ISKCON, has kind of broken away from that, which is now worldwide, obviously. Originally, the Gaudiya original one is still there, but because of internal whatever differences, the ISKCON foundation has moved. So it's all based on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So yes, it is authentic. Well, depends what you mean by authentic. Obviously, in Hinduism, there's so many acharyas, so many traditions. In that sense, anything could be authentic, I guess. Yeah, Sita.
No, there's not much more I can add. I mean, as Vijay bhai said, there's so many teachers and acharyas and gurus, throughout India. We're spoiled for choice in a way, and you have to sort of recognize that each sort of grouping or following will continue to flow and evolve with the times, and because the humanity continues to evolve, the environment continues to evolve. And we just have to recognize the beauty of that dynamic sort of spiritual foundation that we've got in India.
Okay, wonderful. We take a next question from Charmaine. She asked last week about reincarnation. She asked, does Maya and the concept of reincarnation tie into the concept of space-time and wrapping curvature of time? Sitaben?
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of stuff.
So Maya and the concept of reincarnation connecting with space-time curvature.
Oh gosh, wow. So ultimately we have to remember that all of these sort of births that we take are part of this Maya, this appearance, essentially, because ultimately we are the spirit and we don't go anywhere, but we feel that we are going through this life and then we go through another life and another life. So in that sense, the whole purpose of this reincarnation, coming back again and again, is for us to sort of uncover the veil of Maya, to recognize that there is an ultimate disjoint between the world that we see and experience and what the reality is. So that's the whole purpose of being reincarnated over and over again, is for us to develop that realization that ultimately we are the spirit and we are not this person being born over and over again. And in terms of space-time curvature, that's very tricky. But what I can suggest is the concept of time is like a man-made sort of construct. And, essentially when you sort of are not part of the physical world, the material world, time perhaps operates in a different way. And fascinatingly, with the idea of reincarnation, you hear cases where people who remember their past life, they say that they feel like they've come back to Earth and it feels like it's only been 2 weeks. But when they actually look at the historical date of their passing in the previous life and their birth now, they find, oh, it's actually been 30 years. So the concept of time is very different on other planes or other realms, essentially. So we have to remember, we always think that time is so universal, you know, everyone understands the concept of time. But when you are not in the physical world, this concept of time kind of is different. Time passes differently, which is a really fascinating thing. I don't know how we can do any kind of more research on it, because it's such a metaphysical realm. Like, how do you do any kind of empirical testing on this kind of thing? But just from the sort of facts of reincarnation, from people who have remembered their past life, where they can actually go back and check the actual life that that person led before, they find that time passed very differently until they were born again. So it's fascinating. I don't know much more about it. I wish we did, but Vijay, have you got any thoughts?
No, I think Sita, you actually covered it brilliantly. I think I kind of remember reading a book on this by Brian Cox. It's called E equals to MC squared. And Sita, what he mentions is pretty much what he talks about. That the idea, even they don't even accept time as separate from space. When you say time, they say, what is time? They even don't even accept time as we see it on a normal clock. Is something else. But I think, as you mentioned, that the idea that your Atman actually is separate from this. It's just that we feel we are part of this space-time. And we're involved in this idea. But yes, space and time is different for everybody. It flows differently. So it's very complex, a very heavy question from Shaman, actually. But yeah, I mean, even the idea of coverage, coverage of space-time is an interesting thing, because we know the stars we see are not actually there, they're somewhere else. It's because the light is bent by many objects. By the time it comes to us, God knows where the object is. So basically, what we see can be quite deceptive, right? In a way. That's all part of Maya, I guess, you know. What we see is not what he actually is. And on a much more higher scale, what the Atman is totally different from the way it is covering us. Once that disappears, basically everything disappears. We actually realize we're not even part of space-time, yet we're transcending the idea of space-time. So all these are very interesting concepts, I guess, but it's a topic which takes days of debate, I guess. But yeah, interesting question. Manish, bye.
Thank you, Vijay Bhai and Sitavin. Wonderful answer there, Sitavin. So Olim McControl has said that in India, these calendars were developed, and how to count time was developed. And based on that, some of these calendars came into being. And based on those calendars, we celebrate certain festivals. Certain kind of days are considered very auspicious, and certain days are normal. So the question is, if we question the concept of time, does this all come into question then, Vijay?
It's interesting. Okay, about calendars, I have some idea, because again, there's a very, you know, there's this economist called Amartya Sen. He wrote a book called The Argumentative Indian. There's a whole chapter on time. And one thing interesting to remember about the Indian time is that it's based on the stars, it's astral calendars. It's not based on the moon, contrary to popular belief. They're based on the position of the stars. So it just so happens that because of the way the stars are positioned, over many years, you're always in line with the solar calendar. Because, you know, every 3 years, you get an extra month to compensate, right? In most calendars. And the calendars are actually, there's Vedic calendars, there's, you know, Vikram Samvat, there's Shalivahan, there's so many calendars. And they're all based on the stars, you know, have auspicious days, good days. Again, you know, it shows our interconnectedness. I'm not an astrologer by any means at all. I don't kind of believe in that, but it just shows that we're all intertwined and interconnected. But the idea of this calendars is very interesting. There's also something interesting point to add here. The city of Ujjain in India, which is Madhya Pradesh, you'll be surprised, almost on the half-hour slot. You know, when you go to India, it's half an hour off, it's 5.5, 4.5. It's not really full hour. And city of Ujjain is actually famous for maintaining these calendars of India. All the different calendars, they've always been, I think the king was Vikramaditya, who actually really supported these astrologers to build these calendars. It's a very famous city. But by and large, the calendars are based on the stars, astral stars and position. That's how they've developed. That's why we add extra month. But physically, when you see the days, you can't base it on the stars. So people use the moon calendar, you know, the moon cycle. That is used for day-to-day physical, you know, observation of the days. But ultimately, it's the stars. So it's a bit of a very interesting the way they've done it. And it's quite nice to study that. I don't know. I mean, it's a big topic, obviously. Sita Ben, anything to add?
Yeah, no, not much. That's really fascinating about that sort of timing. But I guess if we think everything is spiritual, everything is all of that. Every day should be special and auspicious and all of that. But I think because we're humans and we need something to sort of focus our minds on spirituality for. So this is why certain days are given importance, and that's why we have festivals and auspicious times of the year and all of that. Just to help us to focus our minds on something spiritual, because otherwise we just live through the rush of life and the years and months go by and that's the end of it. But if we say, oh, next month is a special month, I must go to the temple, I must fast, I must do some charitable work, it focuses our mind. So they're in a way little handles or tools that we can use to focus on something higher.
That is wonderful answer there, Sita Ben and Vijay Bhai. Wonderful subject. And unfortunately, we've come to the end of the hour and it's time to close. I'll share the quote for the day. And the quote is from Swami Vivekananda. It's saying, all things in the universe are divine origin and deserve to be loved. So as Hindus, we should continue to revere the animal kingdom and let's have more balanced and life with more symbiosis, and let's be more mindful of the way we lead our lives and have more interconnected with nature. With that, we closing this session. Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai, anything to add?
No, I love that quote from that's like that. Yeah, no, fascinating topic today.
Definitely, and thank you, Manish Bhai, for handling everything today. We're missing
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much for managing everything. Thank you.
Thanks, Manish Bhai.
Thank you, Sita Ben. Thank you, Vijay Bhai. And we must thank Nisit Bhai. He set it up everything for me. I just have to log in and start the session. So big thank you to Nisit Bhai, who's not here, but hopefully he'll be back next week. Thank you everyone for joining. And please do continue to support us in our endeavors. We try to bring in new topic every week and make this session very interesting. Thank you for joining. Have a wonderful week. And as Sita Ben said, every day is a special one. Make it special and have a blessed week ahead. Thank you. Okay.